Hello, I'm Jim Paxson. Tonight we'll take you behind the scenes at the Arizona Game and Fish Wildlife Center. You'll also see the risks our biologists take helping to conserve Arizona's eagles and how a group of volunteers is making life easier for a herd of pronghorn. All that and more coming up on Arizona Wildlife Views.
Arizona Wildlife Views is brought to you by the sale of hunting and fishing licenses and the Heritage Fund, lottery dollars working for wildlife. Some projects made possible by the Sport Fish and Wildlife Restoration Fund.
Good evening and welcome to our show. This is Magnum, a golden eagle who was treated here at the center after being hit by a car. Unfortunately, he's non-releasable, but he has a wonderful new role as an education animal. Golden eagles are secretive in nature, so there's a field study underway to learn more about these powerful raptors, and that's where we begin our show tonight.
Wildlife biology is often a lot like trying to solve a mystery. And following that mystery can lead to some very precarious situations.
Do you see the nest?
Arizona game and fish biologists Kyle McCarty and Kenneth Jacobson are leading this research team to help unlock some of the secrets surrounding Arizona's other eagle.
Golden eagles are a species that have not been studied quite as much as balds. It makes sense for that to be the case. Bald eagles were listed as endangered. They were down to only 400 or 500 known breeding areas in the continental U.S. Golden eagles have never reached those low levels. However, there is some concern over what their population status is because they haven't been studied across their range.
For this part of the study, Kyle will rappel into the cliffside home of a breeding pair of golden eagles where two nestlings are waiting.
Okay, I'm in space from here.
Once safely in the nest, he'll place a hood over each bird's head to calm them down and booties over their sharp talons. At 8 weeks of age, they are too young to fly, but in case they decide to try, two members of the team are stationed on the ground just below the nest.
Just in case that happens on us, we make sure we pick cliffs that are relatively low from the nest to the ground below, so that if they do jump, they've got not a terribly long way to glide to the ground. They'll have enough feathers that they won't fall like a rock, but they'll glide to the ground, and you don't want them to go too far, just to help make sure that they don't injure themselves.
Once the nestlings are secured inside a specially designed bag, they are raised up to the waiting biologists. There, they will place identification bands on their legs that the birds will wear for the rest of their lives. They also take measurements and collect as much information as they can about each bird.
2.3 kilograms, which is almost exactly 5 pounds. That's definitely a boy.
These young eagles are also being fitted with satellite transmitters, which will provide researchers a glimpse into the lives of golden eagles they've never had before.
It's part of a larger project funded by the Fish and Wildlife Service, where we're putting on transmitters along with multiple other partners to get transmitters deployed across the golden eagle's range, and then from there we'll be able to track them, figure out their survivorship rates, and when there is a mortality, be able to respond to it quickly, grab those nestlings, get them sent off for a necropsy, and hopefully find the cause of death and and at that point, maybe find a solution so it doesn't happen in the future.
Golden eagles are the largest raptor in North America, with a wingspan of 7 feet and weighing an average of 13 pounds. They can easily carry the small, lightweight transmitter without it affecting their ability to live a normal life. And with its built-in solar panel, data could be collected for up to 10 years.
A lot of information that we'll get out of this. First of all, survivorship, mortality causes, that's the first thing. But in the process, we're also getting regular updates, GPS locations on these birds. So we learn a lot about their movements, seasonal variations in their movements, where they migrate to, where they congregate and hang out. All of that information will be very, very important for identifying areas of high importance to golden eagles.
Golden eagles often build their nests on cliffs in out-of-the-way mountains and canyons where prey is abundant. While the eagles are out of the nest, Kyle has the opportunity to learn more about how it's constructed and what the eagles have been feeding on.
There was a lot of food in the nest. They've been eating primarily jackrabbits. At least that's all that we could find remains in the nest. A lot of shade, so that'll help them out as summer starts to progress and the days get hotter. But all in all, everything looks real good here.
While bald eagles get most of the public's attention, after all, it's hard to compete with the national symbol, golden eagles have a status all their own. They are top-notch aerial hunters, and mated pairs can maintain a territory as large as 60 square miles.
Bald and golden eagles are completely different beasts. They live in different habitats. They react very differently from each other. Bald eagles, adults, would be flying around yelling at us through this whole process. The golden eagles probably saw us when we were half a mile out, left the area, and watching us from a very long distance, if at all, waiting for us to leave and come back to the nest. Golden eagles are a much more secretive species. Scoop my back a little bit. See that pocket that he's in?
It takes the biologists about an hour to complete their work. Then the eagles are lowered back into the nest. Once the young birds are secure, Kyle begins the long climb back to the top. The nestlings will fledge in the next few weeks and live out their lives without ever knowing that they are helping researchers unlock some of the secrets to their survival.
First off, welcome everyone to the Bar Triangle Ranch. It used to be part of the Las Vegas Ranch. I'm Wade Albrecht with Game and Fish, the landowner relations specialist.
These early morning volunteers have made the trip to Chino Valley to spend their day working for wildlife.
I really appreciate every one of you coming out. Basically what we're going to be doing is trying to rectify a fragmentation problem out here, which is a farm lane that has woven wire basically bisecting habitat, for pristine habitat at that, for pronghorn antelope, that really is problematic because these animals, which habituate this whole area, love this center pivot irrigation system here. So we're going to be taking down this woven wire fence. We're also going to be removing some bottom strand wire on areas that isn't woven wire, that has barbed wire on the bottom strand. And we're going to be putting smooth wire on the bottom strand, approximately 16 inches height. And we're going to try and make sure that we get this whole farm lane addressed today. It's about, if you look at your map, it's about, I think, about 3 miles total.
I mean, really working for wildlife. Both pronghorn and cattle find this part of the state a good place to call home. Unfortunately, some of the older cattle fencing is interfering with the pronghorn's ability to reach the resources they need to survive.
The woven wire was prohibiting the free movement of pronghorn antelope across these grasslands.
This is a wonderful area for pronghorn. The irrigation, they're really attracted to the green grass in the fields, and there's good hiding cover for fawns that should be dropping here within the next 45 to 60 days. And so this is a real good project to really get a handle and improve the habitat in this area.
The project involves a lot of manpower to remove the old wire and replace it with something that will keep the cattle in and allow the pronghorn to move freely.
This existing fence was made up of 5 or 6 strands of barbed wire, and then in some areas there was also sections of woven wire. We're completely removing the woven wire, and we're going to replace that with 1 to 2 strands of barbed wire, followed by a smooth wire at the bottom. And then where there was 6-strand barbed wire, we're removing the 2 bottom strands of barbed wire and replacing that with a single strand of smooth wire.
Pronghorn are the fastest land mammal in North America and can run in excess of 60 miles an hour. Yet despite their speed, they are reluctant to jump over fences, preferring to crawl under them instead. Because of this, they can easily be bottlenecked into an area where they're more susceptible to predation from coyotes and other predators.
Ideally, we would like to have that bottom wire somewhere between 18 to 20 inches. Because there are cattle in these pastures, we'll probably go for the lower end, the 18-inch gap, which would still be plenty for pronghorn and the fawns, and not hopefully any of the cattle or their calves.
Tom Mackin has been volunteering his time to help wildlife for over 30 years.
I love everything about the outdoors, and it's great to me to see the camaraderie and all the different groups come together. We have people here from the Mule Deer Foundation, the Arizona Wildlife Federation, Arizona Sportsmen for Wildlife Conservation, National Wild Turkey Federation, in addition to a great deal of help from the Game and Fish Department personnel as well.
The ranch owner was in favor of replacing the old fence and happy to be able to help local wildlife. The Landowner Relations Branch of the Arizona Game and Fish Department had funds for the fencing and coordinated the volunteers who provided the manpower to tackle the project.
There's a lot of different groups participating in this, and without their assistance, this just wouldn't get done. So it's essential that we have this community buy-in, and in fact, a lot of these folks are not just from the Prescott area, they're from Phoenix, Flagstaff, various other parts of Arizona, lending a hand because of the need to get things done to help improve habitat for pronghorn and, like I said, other grassland species.
When dozens of people come together to work for a common goal, it's a win-win situation. The rancher gets some new fencing, the pronghorn get the access they need, and new partnerships are forged. Big Chino Valley is the largest contiguous piece of pronghorn habitat south of the Grand Canyon, and improvement projects like this one will help ensure it stays that way into the future. Did you know that Harris hawks, which are abundant in southern Arizona, are one of only 2 truly cooperative hunters in the raptor world? In the Sonoran Desert, where prey has a lot of good cover, they've been documented in groups as large as 9 birds. They'll act like wolves of the air, taking turns harrying a rabbit or squirrel, chasing it out of cover towards other members of the hunting group. What do these animals have in common? They're all ambassadors for the Adobe Mountain Wildlife Center. The Arizona Game and Fish Department opened the doors to Adobe Mountain Wildlife Center in 1983 on a little over an acre of land, making it the first wildlife agency in the nation to include a rehabilitation program as part of its management. Contact between humans and wildlife grows daily as humans expand into or destroy wildlife habitat. In most cases, when humans and wildlife collide, wildlife suffers. Wildlife rehabilitation gives these wild animals a second chance to live free in their natural habitat. The goal of wildlife rehabilitation is to provide professional care to sick, injured, and orphaned wild animals so ultimately they can be returned to their natural habitat.
The mission for the Wildlife Center is actually a twofold project. Number one, our goal is to take in sick, injured, or orphaned wildlife that are native to Arizona, and if it is an animal that we can rehabilitate and put back into the wild, that is our number one goal. If the animal is injured in such a way that it cannot be released, then we will sometimes be able to rehabilitate it to the point where it will be an animal that can be used in education outreach. Sometimes it's an animal that can be placed at a facility such as a wildlife education park, possibly a zoo that has a special wildlife program tied into southwestern exhibits, things like that.
The Adobe Mountain Wildlife Center cares for more than 1,000 sick and injured native wildlife and provides wildlife education programs to hundreds of thousands of people annually. Also, the center holds an open house one weekend every year where the public is invited to take a close-up look at their work and to learn about the center's two primary goals.
Our second goal is to do education outreach, and that is, again, is with a lot of animals that we get in that are non-releasable, that are also tolerable to be around public, that tend to work to not be trained like you would your dog or your cat, but in such a way that they do well setting on a perch or in a special setting with a pin or something like that, so that they are an animal that the public can see and the public can see up close and personal and enjoy. Not to touch or to feel or squeeze or hug, but an animal that they can get a wonderful picture of. They're mesmerized by seeing these animals and they start asking questions, and that gives us the open door to start explaining about the wonderful wildlife we have in Arizona and the uniqueness of every single one of the animals that are here. There's something special about every animal here.
And speaking of special, meet Jomax. Visitors will learn that the kestrel is Arizona's smallest falcon and one of the prettiest. Those colorful feathers are one way he makes his presence known to the ladies.
This is an American kestrel. He's been shot with a BB in the elbow portion of his wing, and it doesn't fold correctly, so now he can't fly with the ability to hunt, thereby he can't eat, so he's here. They're protected birds. You'll see them once you get to know what you're looking at. I thought they were all doves flying. Never knew what birds were. Okay, that's a dove. Then I got close and you start, well, let's look for the little brown birds now. Oh, there's one, and they're around a lot in the fields. You'll see them sitting on fence posts, similar to this. You see them on top telephone poles. And they'll sit there for hours and they'll just watch. They find something they want, they'll swoop, grab it, dinner.
From one of our smallest raptors to one of the largest, Jerry Ostwinkle introduces Cody to the crowd.
This is a 2-year-old male bald eagle. This bird, Mike Demlong and I went to Wyoming and picked him up. He was an imprint that had gone into a picnic area and started stealing people's food, obviously taken out of the nest. So we heard about him. We needed an educational eagle that we could properly train without stress, and so we went up to Wyoming and we picked him up. The eagles that belong to Game and Fish actually stay at my residence because these eagles are flown, and the reason that they're being flown is for exercise, for mental stability. These birds, especially the bald eagle, they just can't be sitting in a cage constantly. Falconers fly their birds. The golden eagle actually hunts for jackrabbits, pursues jackrabbits, and this is a system that we use to keep the bird calm, to keep it just able to function so it doesn't go stale. Eagles are a different bird altogether, so they're very intelligent. They need the attention. They can't be stale. They need to work.
And not to be outdone, Magnum is on hand.
This is Magnum. He's a 10-year-old male golden eagle. He was struck by a car over by Flagstaff about 10 years ago. Ended up losing vision in this eye, but it doesn't affect him on flying. He's got full flight. Magnum started a falconry program 4 years ago of flying. This bird's able to pursue and catch game now, so he's come a long way in 10 years.
Just so you don't get the idea that birds are the only ambassadors at Adobe Mountain, meet Hunter.
Hunter was abandoned as a kitten. He was the sole survivor of 3, and he has been with Adobe Mountain Wildlife Center since the age of about 4.5 months. I've been working with him, been his lead trainer since then, and in the last couple of years we've actually been able to take him out on education programs and teach people a little bit about Arizona's native bobcat. Because he was found at such a young age, at about 2.5 weeks, he was too young to survive on his own, so he had to be cared for. In that time frame, he became imprinted, which means he's not able to go back into the wild and fend for himself. This is not his natural surrounding. He'd much rather be up in a tree. As you can see, his jumping ability from a standstill is easily 6 feet. He can do 8 feet, and if he's got something to propel himself with, he can also go up to 10 feet. He's about half the size of a mountain lion. Mountain lions' body from tip of their nose to the tip of their tail is about 6 feet long. A bobcat average is about 3. Their average weight is anywhere from 20 to 30 pounds. Hunter weighs about 23 pounds right now.
That harness and leash are there for protection. Protection for Hunter as well as for the public he comes in contact with.
You don't normally see a bobcat with a harness and a leash, and this is not anything at all that we recommend. They're not friendly animals, but at the same time, they're not animals that are going to attack you unless something is wrong.
It's time to check out the other activities at the open house. Let's make a beeline to the kids' corner. And when we say kids, kids at heart are also welcome.
Everything we do with the Kids Corner is to tie back into something to do with wildlife. And it's an interactive opportunity for them to have fun and do something that kids really like to do. The Kids Corner has a lot of activities. You can make a fox face, you can make an owl face, you can make a rattlesnake, you can make all kinds of activities. The rattlesnake is basically strips of construction paper that you glue together. Once you have made your paper chain snake, then you can move it along the ground and learn how that they sliver along and how they move and kind of get the concept. So it's an interactive opportunity to where this child will then take this activity away and show it to others.
Other favorite activities are fishing demonstrations. Tossing a PFD, otherwise known as a personal flotation device, from a boat. Oh, so close. And checking out the informational displays from some wildlife partners. And before leaving for the day, who can resist the chance to pick up some really cool Christmas gifts? In an increasingly urbanized world, people are less likely to have personal knowledge of and experience with nature and wildlife. Reducing human-wildlife conflicts can help both humans and wildlife. That's where Adobe Mountain Wildlife Center shines.
Well, that's our show for tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. For more information, visit our website at azgfd.gov. For all the fine folks at Arizona Game and Fish, I'm Jim Paxson with Magnum. We'll see you next time.